Welcome to the WAN show, guys, the weekly show where we talk about all kinds of things to do with My Little Pony, the latest furry trends, and of course, whatever's on sale at Hot Topic. So first up, we've got, as far as Hot Topics are concerned, AMD, oh, this is a tech show.
Crap.
Yeah, AMD Mantle. The Battlefield 4 patch is here, but don't worry too much about it because there's no driver yet.
Nope.
However, it should be noted, there's an email in my inbox. I will not confirm that I have read the email, but what I will say is that it's from the same PR firm that AMD
So you've
uses.
read at least the from line.
I know who it's from.
Have you read the subject line?
No, I haven't read the subject. But I will say that email was probably promising, so I don't think we'll be waiting that much longer. Our next headline, this is kind of awesome. Backblaze is creating sensationalist viral publicity for themselves again. There was actually an excellent article done up by Tweaktown about how flawed their testing methodology was when they basically came out and said, like, Seagate hard drives are garbage. So we'll be going through that. Huge props to Tweaktown for that article.
South Korea has just been like, nope, no bloatware on mobile phones, completely banned, which is super nice. There's a few things like Wi-Fi connectivity is allowed to be hidden, but it's like, come on, what are you trying to do? It's like bloatware is now removable, which is nice. Source 2 engine leak and possibly a game leak that ends in 3, although we'll get into that more later.
Yes, we will. This week's show is brought to you guys by Hotspot Shield, the fast, easy way to set up a VPN. Their elite service is very reasonably priced, and you can get a 20% off coupon by using offer code Linus. So you can sign up at bit.ly/HSshare. Big thanks to them for making the show possible. So without further ado, let's jump right into our first topic, AMD Mantle. Oh, you didn't want to do that one first?
No, I said boom.
Yeah, boom! AMD Mantle. So there's been a whole bunch of news over the last little while. It's finally coming. The Battlefield 4 driver is finally actually dropped. Or did I say driver? I'm sorry,
driver.
Patch. The Battlefield 4 patch, that's Freudian slip, is finally here. You can actually install it, although there won't be any point doing that unless you're running an AMD graphics card that's based on the GCN architecture. Not that there would be a point for you if you did have one of those graphics cards anyway, because you could preload it. You could preload it and be ready to rock. But we're finally getting a ton more data, and here it is. So while you can't install the driver yet, we have reason to believe that you'll be able to get access to it very, very soon. And this was the thing that I thought was most interesting out of all the information that's out there right now. So AMD has released a little bit of information about sort of what kind of performance improvements folks can expect to see using Mantle. And I think many people were expecting their graphics card to sprout wings and fly. So they were expecting to take like an R9 290X and have that all of a sudden be, deep into the double digits percentages faster, when that's not necessarily the case. What Mantle will do is it will alleviate CPU bottlenecking. So if you were in a situation where, I think one of the examples they give here, is a 64-player multiplayer game. So there's a 7970 and an FX 8350, where previously DirectX might not have allowed the CPU to fully leverage all those cores. Remember, that's an 8-core CPU? And you might have been CPU limited. Even that 7970, which is a reasonably powerful graphics card, well, now with Mantle, they're saying you can expect maybe even a 25% performance improvement by allowing your CPU to become unfettered. Now, I've seen reports of, particularly with very high-end graphics cards, the improvements being on the lower side. I've seen reports of, with high-end graphics card, the improvements being, very exceptional. But I think it's really going to depend on what type of level you're playing, what type of scenario you're doing, and it's also going to depend on what the actual finished product looks like, because I haven't seen anything super official yet. This is mostly like leaked stuff here and there.
A big part's going to be, like you said, levels, area, what's going on. Are you playing single player? Are you playing a 64-player configuration? All that kind of stuff, and the exact configuration of your machine. Do you have something that's underpowered in some area? Do you have something that's massively overpowered in another area? So it's going to come down to like the perfect storm of all the different things happening to exactly how much performance you're going to gain out of it.
You know what's funny? I had it echoing. I had my Twitch stream going.
Every week.
It's not every week.
Every week. And Barefoot's better.
What do people know? Whatever, man.
Barefoot's better, man.
Anyway, so what we'd like to... I guess, you know what? I'd love to do a Twitter Blitz for this. What do you guys want to see us compare? Because we're in one of those privileged positions where we have access to all the hardware, and I'm going to give you guys 3 options. So option number 1 is high-end CPUs, high-end graphics cards, take another run at Battlefield 4, except with AMD we run Mantle, with NVIDIA we run DirectX, and see how things fall. Or would you rather than comparing high-end graphics cards with high-end CPUs, would you rather we have a look at the impact of Mantle on low-end CPUs, and we instead take one high-end graphics card, let's say a Radeon R9 290 or something like that, and we take a range of different CPUs? Or would you rather... Actually, that was pretty much all I had. What would you rather we do? Because we're not going to be able to do everything. I think AMD's promised me I'll have 24 hours before a public driver is released, you know, to run numbers. So let's say, do you guys want us to focus on GPU performance with a single high-end CPU, or CPU performance with a single high-end GPU?
Are we taking a tweet from this, or are we straw polling it?
We're tweeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I was just making sure.
Yeah, go ahead and just tweet us with what you would prefer to see. This is exciting. Oh, actually, there was one other bit of Mantle news. So, I mean, we knew this was coming. It's not really Mantle, but it's the latest driver from AMD that includes OpenCL 2.0 support, HSA support for Kaveri APUs.
You also have some pretty badass spreadsheet support.
Yeah, so LibreOffice. This was posted on the forum by the SLS AMG. The notification, LibreOffice is now supporting Mantle.
What?
So Mantle as well as OpenCL and HSA are going to be a huge emphasis for them when you're doing things. And actually, AMD had some interesting use cases for this. So one example was buying and selling stocks within very tight time frames. So when you have a live feed of data that you need your spreadsheet to calculate and spit out new quotes as quickly as possible, they were showing HSA on a Kaveri APU versus an Intel quad-core processor and how much faster it could update, so how much more granular the data you could get was, and it was actually very impressive. And so while most people will give exactly this many cares about LibreOffice's ability to calculate spreadsheets slightly faster, there are people out there for whom this will be extremely important. So we can't just gloss over it. It's
all of Twitch chat is just like, what? What?
It matters. It might not matter to you.
What?
But it matters.
How does this make my game run faster?
All right. Let's move on to our next topic. Valve's in-home streaming. I don't know if you guys saw the video we did on it already or not. I thought it was one of the best videos we've ever done. I worked extremely hard on it. Actually, like, my legs are tired. Because the thing about in-home streaming is you have to have mirrored configurations of whatever it is you're doing in both places. So in this house, that ended up being on 2 separate floors for the sake of what I thought was going to be improved convenience and not having to haul things
Not at all.
in one place and then run new network cables and stuff. It ended up being a lot of running back and forth up and down the stairs, but it was a lot of fun to do, and I want you guys to check it out. And you guys aren't the only ones that are going to be checking it out. This was extremely exciting. This is the first time I have ever gotten any attention from Valve in any way whatsoever, but on steamcommunity.com in the home streaming group, which you guys have to join if you want to have the home streaming beta enabled for you, I was actually featured on their announcements tab.
There's also a forum discussion thing going on about it too.
Yeah, with 131 comments there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty much the coolest thing ever. It felt like getting a gold star of approval from Gabe Ben himself.
It wasn't.
I know, but it felt like it.
At least they know who we are.
At least someone there
Someone at Valve knows that we exist.
is aware
That
of
is
our existence. Awesome. And anyway, it's a great video. I hope you guys enjoy it. It was, I realized there was one thing that I actually kind of left out from the video, and that was how good is the gaming experience other than where it's like fundamentally broken, like on Eyefinity in 4K. I actually didn't talk about it. So that was a bit of a glaring omission. It's actually very good. There is noticeably more what feels like jitter. And there is, it seems like sometimes tearing is a little bit more noticeable. But beyond that, I mean, latency-wise, when you're running on a wired connection, how did it feel for you?
It was actually really good. The only time with what configurations people expect to work that it was kind of weird was when we had that really low-powered system. Did you have that in the video?
I did, and so do you mean the one where we were only getting 720p 30 FPS on the Sapphire machine, right? Yeah. So it's not as simple as does the machine have enough horsepower to decode an H.264 stream? That's what I think a lot of people thought, and it's not quite like that. It has to be able to do that while managing that network traffic, while sending commands the other way, and then it seems to just do some extra. So a dual-core E450 APU, that's a very low-power, older APU, was not enough for 1080p streaming, but something like an Ultrabook, even a dual-core Core i5 or Core i7 Ultrabook, was able to handle 1080p just fine. The only issue is that most of them don't have Ethernet on board, so I actually just picked up a couple more of these USB to Ethernet adapters. I'm going to be doing a Great Tech Under $100 episode again, and I'm going to include this as well as a couple other really cool things that I've been using lately. Cool. Well, the problem is that I had never owned one before, and so I'd always kind of made do without it. And then I bought one, and all of a sudden, it was like,
you need it all the time.
I use it during WAN show. I used a netbook to make a pfSense router for my house. So now all of a sudden it's tied up there, and I'm like, oh crap. Okay, yep.
More required. One
for the bag, one for the WAN showroom, and I'll probably be buying more of them. Oh, and this one right here, this pluggable USB 2 Ethernet adapter is gigabit, so 450 megabit per second max, obviously, because it's USB 2, but it's also rumored to be compatible with Shield. So stay tuned, guys. You could be getting a Limelight versus Shield versus Valve in-home streaming, wired versus wireless latency roundup over the next little bit. That's going to be really fun.
That's actually really cool.
It's going to be a nightmare to do all the benchmarking for it.
Oh, it's going to be terrible.
It's going to be just awful. The worst thing ever. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yay!
I hate my life. Actually, I love my life. It's just sometimes I hate things about it.
So we should do the...
Yeah, let's do our Twitter Blitz. Okay, so Nathan wants different CPUs with the Kaveri APU for the best CPU. I think you're a little confused, Nathan. An APU has a CPU on it. I would say, if possible, run all the CPUs, but at 8 gig or 16 gig configurations, that's not going to make much of a difference, Ludwig. Mantle is not in any way rumored to optimize the use of more memory, more system memory. Okay. That's one option, though, running a lot of CPUs with maybe a couple different graphics cards. So, like, one high-end, one, like, you know, $100, $150 card, like a entry-level gaming.
What I say we do, which this might be aside from this, but I'm assuming that I'm doing all the benchmarking.
I could help. Actually, I could legit help with this because it's only one run. And we have 2 accounts with BF4.
One bench.
We could have multiple benches. We have
So we could do 2 different. You could do one, I could do the other one essentially, because you could do
CPUs with one GPU,
and I can do the CPU with multiple GPUs.
We could potentially do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll set aside some time Monday.
Sure.
So Leonard wants mid-range AMD versus high-end NVIDIA, just to see what happens there. That would be interesting.
That actually,
Dietrich asks for GPU test first. Dexter wants to see the high-end stuff. Let's see the heavyweight showdown. I mean, you know what? That's, I think, what most people are going to be interested in, too. Ashley wants the APU tests. 1 over option 2. Okay, socks and sandals is better than barefoot. Thank you, Marius. The lone PC gamer do both options while rendering a video. I think most people don't game while they're rendering videos in the background. Maybe I'm generalizing, but I think in general it's correct.
I've done that.
Yeah, I've done it too.
Back when I used to have to edit.
But I think most people usually don't.
Running VMs while trying to edit things was always really interesting. Anyways.
All right, so take mid-range CPUs in the same cards. We're seeing actually a fair bit of each. CPU modder asks for both. CPU range, comparing DirectX versus Mantle, sounds like apples and pears. Well, it's Apple. Okay, this. Okay, I'm about to go on a rant here, Levi. I'm sorry, but you've started this. You take the responsibility. This is the problem with fanboyism. There is no such thing as an unfair comparison. I'm gonna let that sink in.
Yes, there is.
Okay, there's such thing as a flawed experiment.
We're going to be covering back, please.
Oh, okay. No. There's a flawed experiment,
Yeah.
but a correctly conducted experiment can't be unfair.
Well, that means you're removing the unfair.
No, okay.
Because there is unfaired experiments, but they are flawed.
Hold on a second. Because okay. Unfair, I mean like emotionally unfair. Like it's not
Emotionally
fair to benchmark AMD versus Nvidia in Tomb Raider because the 780 Ti is bugged in Tomb Raider. That's not unfair.
Yeah.
That's just it doesn't perform well. Sorry.
Well,
That's not unfair.
breaks.
It's a perfectly good experiment. It's just that one of the things failed and didn't do well. That's all. And an experiment is designed to reveal these things. So if you were to say it's unfair to compare NVIDIA running in DirectX mode in a particular game that supports Mantle versus AMD running Mantle, that's not unfair. That's a feature that they don't have. That's it. That's all there is to it. If this one performs better, but at reduced image quality, well, now we've introduced other variables and we have to talk about that. But all other things being the same, if this one runs like this, and it has this extra thing and this one doesn't, that's it. That's all there is to it.
I think there can be unfairs, and I think you just said one. You could have different image qualities. There can be something. It's still an experiment.
From talking to Johan Anderson back at NVIDIA's event, and this was at NVIDIA's event, he did not expect there to be any image quality difference between Mantle and DirectX.
This is. I'm not saying there is. I'm saying not. I meant like if you go in and go from very high to medium. That's unfair.
Well, yeah, but that's not unfair. That's just stupid.
Yeah, but it's still unfair.
That's just doing it wrong.
That's
okay.
stupid and unfair.
Okay, fine then. There's no such thing as utilizing a product to its full potential being unfair.
There you go. So you're putting both of them in the best possible configuration they can be in and testing them against each other. That's fine. That's exactly what we're going to do, and that's fine.
Like back when AMD was having a lot of trouble with frame pacing, taking an NVIDIA SLI configuration versus an AMD Crossfire configuration and saying, this destroys this, was fair.
Yep.
I'm sorry your driver isn't good, or not as good as your competitor. That's not unfair, it's just fact.
Yeah.
And until it's fixed, it's just fact, and you have to deal with it. So I don't want to hear about unfair. That's all.
In that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna let things be as good as they possibly can, as long as it's not hurting the experience in some other way.
We are not intervening in some way that is nerfing one of them in some way to make it worse than the other. We are allowing them both to go as hard as they can.
For as long as they can. Alright, so this is interesting. I did not expect anyone to do this.
It was fast. You know he announced the first version of it on the after party?
Wait, this is V1?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I changed your link.
Oh, you changed my link?
It didn't. Whatever your link was didn't work.
No, I thought that was no, I'm pretty sure I had a newer link.
Whatever your link was, there was no download button. It did not work.
Is this newer?
You can if you delete.
Oh no, this has been updated. He says we won. So this
like I'm pretty sure this is the newest one. If you delete that end part of the URL, you can find his.
So I challenged someone last week watching the stream. I said, "Look, it's open."
There's a lot of audio.
Anyone who wants to do it. What? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Are you sure you want to open that, Linus?
Yes, I want to open it. Jeez. Okay.
There's a lot of audio.
So we asked for someone to make the game. Oh, hold on. I should just check to make sure the levels are okay. Yeah, can't even hear it. That's interesting.
It might be once you start the game.
Okay, well, we'll make sure it's not too loud once we start it. Oh, yeah, it's pretty loud. Okay, we'll go ahead and turn that down a little bit. There we go. All right, so I asked someone to make the game Candy Ass Candy Eaters. There is an avatar that you can use here, so I'm going to play on medium. So you get Slick, and you eat the candy, and you avoid the, what are these again?
Copyright symbols?
Copyright symbols, yeah. And I think spaces jump. So the idea is to collect as much candy as you can while violating as few copyrights as you can to avoid getting sued. So I can show you guys.
Oh no!
I'll show you guys what happens when I. Oh, I got sued.
You got sued.
I go to jail. So this was something where I paid the $100 bounty last night. Where I was like, okay, someone has to make this game. This is gonna be awesome. So this was because of King Games trying to trademark the word candy, and among other things, and go after anyone who had a game that was sort of revolved around candy. So they're the makers of Candy Crush Saga, and I think they were going after anyone using the word saga as well, which is like, really?
Well, there's a few words they were doing. So people are making like candy saga rush and like candy saga whatever and all these different things. It's kind of awesome. So yeah, we should definitely have a thread somewhere on the forum where people post their high scores, and it's actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's not a bad game. I've seen worse.
It's like actually pretty alright. The just for fun part is kind of insane.
Oh, this I hadn't seen yet. I never play games just for fun. So this is you get a.
There's a storm of candy.
I didn't know you could double jump. Ah, interesting. All the game mechanics.
So you can double jump. There's a few ways. You slam yourself into the wall and you press it, and then you fall into this ledge, but you can kind of jump out of it or something. But like it gets difficult. Sometimes you break it.
Okay, we didn't say the game was perfect. Just to be clear.
If you don't go too far out, you land on this little ledge, and then you can jump back in. So like if you really need to dodge a thing and for some reason you can't go the other way, you can like shuffle out the wall.
Someone should make a game where you dodge coins. And you're a dog. That'd be awesome. No bounty for that one.
Dodging coins.
I'm already poor enough. All right.
If you win, you should get candy, and it should be Candy Quest Saga Coin Dodger Edition.
So there's more to Oculus Rift than just gaming. This article is from Eurogamer.net and is actually talking about a use for it that would allow people to virtually swap bodies. So you actually, I think, did most of the...
There's not even really, honestly, that much else to say. What happens is you sit in similar proximity, and then to be able to keep the immersion up, you have to kind of move in sync with the other person. So a lot of them, you do not want to play this.
Oh.
I put like flags all over that post, right there, and right there, so that you wouldn't play the video.
All right, cool.
Anyways, don't watch the video unless you're of appropriate age, because there is nudity within the video.
Okay.
But essentially, what you do is you have to move in sync. So because like if you grab your leg or if you grab your arm like this, for immersion, if you're looking down, to be able to see yourself, which is not yourself, it's the other person, grab their arm, they have to do it at the same time. So all the movements are very sweeping and very slow, so you can do it at the same time. A few things that break it from... Stop it.
I'm just curious.
Oh, I see. A few things that break it, as far as I can tell, is like when they're going like this, and stuff like that. Like the guy is super hairy. So as he's going like this and the girl is like not hairy at all, it's like, well, that wouldn't feel the same.
Right.
At all. And there's
Makes
a few
sense.
things that would break it in my mind. But yeah, it's interesting. They have a few different reasons for doing it. So, where is it? By doing this, they can participate in a virtual body swap. They've entitled the machine Machine to Be Another. And its whole idea is to explore empathy and the nature of the self. That sentence is hard to say. The nature of the self. It sounds weird.
So there you go. If you could find a willing participant and set up a Be Someone Else machine, then...
It shouldn't theoretically be that hard.
No, I don't think so.
Because there's
We should do it.
You've seen the video now. That got a lot more awkward. There's cameras mounted and stuff, so it can feed out. Yeah, I don't know. It's really not that complicated, but it's interesting that people are starting to do these ideas, because I think Oculus is going to be used for a lot more things than just gaming.
Yeah. All right, so Left 4 Dead 2 in Source 2 engine leaks. So this is a PowerPoint presentation that was leaked by a fairly credible source, Seaboat.
Also known as Crazy Buttocks on a Train.
That sounds credible. So leaked by Seaboat, and there's some before and after shots of what it might look like on Source Engine, which of course has been heavily modified since it was originally released. They've updated it to the point where, I mean, really, you'll go back to the very first Source games and they're hardly recognizable as the same engine.
Yeah.
But the point is that it is obviously been upgraded significantly further than that. So this would be Source 2, and then there also seem to be some hints that some game with, you know, Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 might be coming at some point. I mean, Valve is always so tight-lipped about this stuff.
Yeah, and it's okay. It seems really fishy to me. I have to call this out. It was not announced by Crazy Buttocks on a Train. This was a different leak thing, and it's super simple. One thing about the Seaboat release was that, like, the PowerPoint looked actually pretty fleshed out.
Yeah.
There was stuff on it. There was other slides that weren't shown. There was blah, 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 blah. And it looked interesting and full. The other one's just like a directory screenshot. It's like, yup, cool. So, like, anyone could have renamed files and just been like, cool, leaked. And then, like, why is it actually called HL3?
Yeah, I can't imagine they would
Seriously?
do that.
Like, they didn't codename it at all? Really? I don't know. It doesn't seem super crazy legit to me. So I don't know about that one, but the Seaboat one seems quite a bit more legit. This is interesting.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So next up is Google has begun ranking ISPs the same way that Netflix did. So Netflix released this report. When was that? That was, what?
Not that long ago.
6 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, really not that long ago.
Not that long ago, where, remember, there's the speed your internet service provider advertises to you, 50 megabit or 100 megabit or whatever. And then there's the speed that you're actually getting, particularly for certain demanding services like on-demand video. And typically, it is not anywhere near the level of what they're advertising.
And I find, like, people like my mom are going to have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Like, my internet is this fast. What does that allow me to do? No idea. So now this translates that information into something that makes a lot more sense. My internet is capable of running YouTube in HD verified mode. Oh, well, that's good.
So HD verified, in order to qualify, you have to be able to run a 720p stream 90% of the time without any hitches. I mean, a lot of people complain about YouTube issues, but I mean, maybe that's what prompted them to do this, because many of the issues, like, you'll go, okay, no, my internet's plenty fast. I can download something from here and it's fast, but then I go to play YouTube videos and it's crappy. That's probably your ISP dinking around, and it's actually less likely that that's Google that is not able to deliver you the video in a timely manner.
And it's a lot safer for them to do that too, because especially with downloads, they have a lot of the time rated speeds. And YouTube videos, you just see it lagging. You don't know why. It doesn't show, like, it is downloading at this fast, blah, 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 blah. One thing that I wish they did was I wish they had almost, say, different tiers. Like, why is it just, you are YouTube HD verified if you reach this level? Why is it
gold
not, like,
verified would be nice.
Gold verified, so it's like 1080p or higher, or like you are HD standard, or YouTube standard or YouTube HD. Like, I wish there was different levels.
This is really cool though. It shows the results in your area for who is HD
standard
verified, who is standard definition verified, and then who is lower definition. So apparently Bell in my area is low rubbish.
I don't know anyone that has.
I don't know anyone that has a Bell connection. Like, I gotta wonder if that's mobile or something.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't even know what's up with that. But there you go. Very cool.
Who are
So then
some
it
of these people?
breaks it down into so what quality people were watching at during those times. So this is how many streams overall. So the peak was around 8 or 9 p.m., which makes perfect sense. And then what percentage of them were able to run in HD. That's really, really cool. So TELUS low tier, for example, was only able to achieve about 80% of its streams in HD.
But then
Cool.
that's low tier or whatever.
But then that's a low tier service.
It's interesting because that's a lot more translatable to someone who just
Like-
wants an internet connection and isn't really that interested in anything.
Normal
about it.
people.
Yeah. So time to rage face a little bit.
Yeah. Do you want to handle this?
I don't
Like,
see
we can tag team it.
Sure. My almost problem with this is that it's the exact same thing. And we will be saying the exact same things as we did last time because it's exactly the same.
But this time it's been scientifically torn down. Categorically torn down. Analytically torn down. By Tweaktown. So this was a great little article from Paul Alcorn where he basically goes, okay, Backblaze's thing that they released where they graphed hard drive reliability and failure rates over time, showing Seagate to have an abysmally terrible failure rate, which I called out at the time. I said, well, it looks like a lot of these results are being skewed by one batch of a particular drive. And there were other problems with it than that. So he actually dug through Backblaze's excellent blog and found a lot of the information that he needed to refute the claims that were being made with respect to drive reliability, which was really interesting. So basically he dug through and went, okay, this graph is interesting, but it can't possibly have a basis in reality because even WD's annual failure rate of 3%, based on what I personally already know about the margin that exists on a hard drive for a company like Western Digital, would put them out of business.
Yeah.
They wouldn't exist if that was their actual failure rate in the field. So you have to consider a number of things. So number one is these are consumer grade drives being used in an enterprise environment.
There was a lot of them that were ripped out of enclosures because something they found, which is very true, is that a lot of times you can find cheaper drives in enclosures. One of the things is you're not entirely sure which exact drive is going to be in there and what bin it was and blah, 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 blah. But they were mass purchasing to the point of having some of their employees banned from buying hard drives from stores because they were buying so many.
And this was during the shortage.
Yeah, and then they were like putting out hit lists for people to go out and buy drives from different stores for them, and then giving them bounties
They were
for those drives.
crowdsourcing drives.
Like ridiculous, so they could get these external drives and then do what they call shucking, which is just like corn, taking all the outside off and then using this internal hard drive. So they're using drives from wherever the heck because they're getting all these externals.
Who knows how they were transported? I mean, that's a big thing, guys.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. The failure rates for hard drives are affected in a significant way by the manner in which they are shipped or delivered from wherever they're coming from to the customer.
Yep.
So sourcing was an issue. The fact that the drives weren't all running in the same environment
At all.
was a big issue. So different enclosures. Many of the failed drives were running in an older style of enclosure that caused more vibration. Some of the drives were going to be running near the center of enormous racks of drives where it was, I think they were observing temperatures up to 10 degrees hotter or something like this?
It's like if you have an entire huge row of rack mount servers, like huge rows of them, in the middle of the row, so rack, in the middle, you'd find the hottest, and at the top, you'd find the hottest. So the middle top drives are going to be quite a bit hotter than the other ones.
Yeah, so the huge temperature ranges, which there have been reports that temperature doesn't affect hard drive failure rates.
From them.
But the manufacturers all seem to be aligned on this. I mean, you look at guys like Seagate and WD, they don't agree on much. But what they do agree on is that vibration is bad, and so that older enclosure that Seagate's drives were running in was terrible, and they agree that heat is bad. Hard drives have manufacturer-suggested operating temperatures that you should stay within, and then lower is better. according to the actual manufacturers that actually engineer this stuff. So basically, once again, Backblaze has gotten everyone talking about them by making a sensationalist headline, and then they got Tweaktown to have to talk about them some more and generate even more publicity
And then
for them.
us.
I mean, and the funny thing is, the Tweaktown article isn't even like hating on Backblaze, because a lot of what they were doing
Was to help customers.
was well intentioned
really cheap storage.
for their customers. It's like, okay. So, but then just like, please stop sensationalizing stuff. You know, please. That's all.
And like throwing other companies under the bus pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, throwing someone like Seagate under the bus because like you wanted to make headlines really feels like not a good, not a very good,
No,
partner
it
thing
doesn't feel good.
to do.
It feels really icky. Yeah. There was a bunch of stuff. We talked about it all, but like I think they're on their third revision of Blackbase server. Another thing that bugs me too is in the more detailed charts, you can find like there was years of difference between when drives were deployed too,
Yeah.
which is a huge deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, to actually determine this scientifically, you would have to have a controlled environment. You'd have to source all the drives from the same place. You would have to have them all performing approximately the same work. I mean, that was another thing. That was their
Yeah.
whole enterprise versus consumer grade drives one, where they had them doing completely different things. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'll be the first to tell you guys, an enterprise or server grade workload will kill a consumer grade drive. Did I tell you how many drives failed in my Windows Home Server, my original one?
Weren't they just basically like candy?
They were basically like, I probably had anywhere between 8 and a dozen drives fail over the couple of years that I was running it. And the reason for that was because of the way that Windows Home Server v1 worked. Data was constantly being shuffled around and balanced between the drives for redundancy because it didn't use RAID. So what happened was my boot drives would die, because the boot drive couldn't be manually removed from the drive pool. So it had to handle running an OS and doing all that stuff, and then it had to handle having data sort of swapped back and forth on it all the time, and that thing would thrash constantly, and they would just die. And it was a real pain when they died, so I eventually replaced it with an Intel SSD, which is running to this day. Because, I mean, it's not a ton of writes. It's just a lot of random all over the place, which will wear out a hard drive faster than it will an SSD.
Yeah. Jumping to BUI-Fi?
No, actually, I wanted to go
trying to figure out
to
what you're looking
Hawaii's post on the forum. So speaking of PC component failure rates, these numbers may actually be slightly more credible because at least it's a wider sample and is actual components that are being deployed into the field by a retailer.
There
are problems.
Yeah.
I know. There are problems. The sample sizes vary, anywhere from hundreds of units to thousands of units.
Who knows if someone bought a whole bunch and then put them in a weird configuration.
Yep.
None of them will be in the same, like, very few of them will be in the same cases, in the same configurations.
Yep.
None of them are really going to be at the same temperatures. But
letting end users use them is not a controlled environment.
But it's much wider, which almost helps it.
Yeah, that almost makes it more relevant to the average consumer who's looking to buy something. So there's lots. Oh yeah, another thing to consider about this, guys, is that it does not account for failed products that get returned to the manufacturer, because they have no way of tracking that. This is only ones that came back to the retailer. So some manufacturers in particular have notices right inside their packaging that says, hey, yo, go through us. Don't go back to your retailer. And I'm not saying they're not trying to hide anything from the retailers. It's just that I think some of them feel like they want to be in charge of their own customer service and do a great job of taking care of this customer that has a dead product. And I think that's where the motivation comes from. But there were some really interesting numbers. Gigabyte did really well with respect to average failure rates. Asus and ASRock did really well. MSI didn't do very well, but it looks like it was skewed by one model. That's cool because this breaks it out by manufacturer as well as by individual models,
which is really cool.
Where it's relevant, or where they had enough of them. That's what I was looking for. Where they had a big enough sample size.
Were you surprised by anything in here?
Not really. I mean, I worked at a retailer for years.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was just wondering.
And it's funny because there is so much talk from consumers about who makes reliable graphics cards and who makes blah blah blah. You know what? There's like 4 factories making all this stuff, and they all have extremely advanced equipment, and they're all improving their QA processes all the time. And you can do the simple math, which is like I've seen accusations made that a manufacturer has huge RMA rates, half of them die. You can assume that if that were the case, they would not exist. There have been products that were extremely bad. And, you know, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus here. Okay, I will. The Striker Extreme was a terrible product. It was an awful motherboard. RMA rates above 25% for that board.
There's
over the entirety of its lifetime. There are lemons.
there's higher than that in this doc.
Yeah, so there's stuff like that, but the thing that doesn't surprise me is that stuff happens. And the other thing too, this is another flaw with this, is that it's only, I think, what, 6 months of data? Or a year of data or something like that. Yeah, so it's a limited time frame where one manufacturer can just have a bad spell for a bit, and then that can make them look really bad on this report when that's not necessarily the ongoing case. Although it does include some data from the previous year in this report as well. So it was very interesting. Very interesting overall. This is awesome. OCZ petrol and octane SSD return rates in the 40+% ranges. And a lot of talk occurred about OCZ RMA rates. And what I would say at the time is, guys, yeah, there are bad apples. Petrol was a terrible drive. I returned hundreds of them, but without even selling them when I realized what was going on. But something like Vertex 4 and Vertex 3 and Vertex 2 before that.
I ran those Vertex 4s for a really long time.
Yeah, and so did a lot of people.
No,
And,
I mean
yeah.
for like test benching.
Yep.
And I beat the crap out of them when I was test benching.
Yep.
So like, yeah, pretty cool.
So anyway, so there you go. You guys should definitely check that out on the forum. It's also posted on Linus Tech Tips Facebook, which I've started becoming a lot more active on. So if you guys follow or like Linus Tech on Facebook, then you'll see things that I will post there. It actually gets some exclusive content now.
Apparently there is a thread in PC gaming for Candy Ass Candy Eater High Score Bonanza. So
Excellent.
I'm going to post that in the Twitch chat so people can find that.
Fantastic.
I'm probably going to jump on there at some point because I actually find it quite entertaining.
B Wi-Fi, this is an article from Ars Technica, lets you steal your neighbor's bandwidth when they're not using it. But I think steal is a bit of a misnomer here, because what the video actually suggests is more of a Wi-Fi sharing concept. So I'm just going to turn that down. Mostly. You know what? Let's not even watch the video, because overall I'm kind of looking at this going like, what are you, high? You can try and defend it if you want.
I think it makes sense in certain regions. I think you saw that in my notes, which is actually what they were targeting too. I don't think like where anywhere that I have ever lived. Nope.
So basically,
except for dorms at university, but then they would have their own.
Yeah.
Thing.
Everyone would have their own login anyway. So
then,
the way that B-Wi-Fi works is you basically sign up and make your Wi-Fi hotspot part of a larger network that anyone else who is also signed up can jump on and jump off at will as they move around even. So if you had a very, very dense city, for example, and everyone was signed up, the idea is that you'd be able to move seamlessly around the city and have Wi-Fi connectivity rather than relying on your mobile data everywhere. The problem that I see for this is that even in a densely populated area, convincing people to use this?
Apparently they have been. And that's because of their target audience too. They're not targeting us. They're targeting like they said, emerging economies and places that have terrible internet, like places where you cannot have a Skype call at all, or where you cannot watch like YouTube pretty much at all, or very low quality of each of them and very intermittent of each of them. And the idea is allowing you to actually use some internet services. This isn't really designed for people with like Google Fiber. This is not targeted at that. They're pushing it out in certain areas of South America. I don't think they have any plans currently for pushing it out in areas in like North America and stuff. This is targeted at a different audience. This is not targeted at you.
Yeah, but I mean, just okay, fine. Okay, all of that aside, from a sheer liability perspective,
Yes,
do
there's
you want
that.
other people using your internet connection?
There's that, but recently I don't see. Okay, part of this, and I knew you were gonna bring this up. Part of this is I have no idea what the laws are there. So where they're pushing it out, I have no idea how the laws come into play. The states, at least, it was recently ruled that your IP is not valid identity.
Okay.
So in the states, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Not just that though. Forget IP being valid to identify you. It's not like, let's say someone was doing something illegal, downloading child porn on your internet connection. Your ISP will know who that was. They will know that came to your connection. Forget your IP and someone, like if someone's actually working with your ISP to identify someone doing illegal things, it can come back at you.
Yes.
And
although
you are
IP
responsible in many places for what happens on your internet
Yes,
connection.
in many places, but we don't know the laws down there.
That's true.
So I have no idea. In the States, again, IP is no longer identity. And there's some stuff that's going to have to go on. They have, if you read through the article, they have brought up like security a few times, but I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if it means that if someone is sharing your bandwidth, that's another thing. Like how exactly the router interfaces outside,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because they haven't like released super technical information as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's very basic right now. So maybe a lot of what I don't like about it is just because I don't have enough information yet.
Because it could be like it just helps that router in some way, however the heck that works exactly.
Yeah, because like the idea is even when you're not on the go, you can be in your house and like your connection is rubbish for some reason, but your neighbor has lots of available bandwidth and you can like borrow from them.
So does that mean that all identifying packets would be coming and going from their router, not yours? Like, I don't know how it works. Yeah, I'm not sure. And then the security thing, I'm kind of expecting that the only way it's secure is that it's because you're sharing bandwidth, you're not sharing an actual local network. So I don't think they'd be able to see your individual computers.
How the devil would you do that? An ISP would have to be the one load balancing there.
No, not necessarily.
Sharing bandwidth?
See,
And
then,
like they're talking about this like in Wi-Fi terms. Like
Yeah.
like
I
can't
mean
connect to
just
multiple
visible
hotspots.
computers.
oh, okay.
That's my only thing. And I don't think you can connect to multiple hotspots.
No. So
But I don't think that's what they're doing.
okay.
They're sharing within the routers. They're not,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's see.
We'll
stay tuned.
I don't know. All I could find on it was not super detailed information, so I'm not really sure.
Ars Technica posts, this is like the best thing ever. We actually had this discussion last week on the WAN show, is for better, for a more innovative and more enlightened approach to technology, would you move? Would you pack your bags and go somewhere with better internet and better technological infrastructure? South Korea has banned unremovable mobile bloatware, both from the carrier level and from the handset provider level, which was really surprising to me because you look at how, up until very recently, I don't know if you saw this, it's not in the doc, but Samsung and Google have come to an agreement that Samsung will begin removing their functionality replicating apps.
I didn't see that.
From their handsets. Yeah, so I think there's a couple that are slated to go right away. But you know how you'll have, calendar and like S calendar, and like mail and like S mail, Gmail, I don't know, snail mail. You have all these duplicated applications on your phone by default, and you can't remove any of them.
Yeah.
Well, Samsung and Google have finally started to come to terms on that, or reconcile there.
And now, like, iPhones hasn't really been a big deal. Android, it has to a certain degree, but then, like, people have been able to get around it, but then not that many people.
Yeah, I mean, my mom couldn't do it.
Exactly. So this does actually help a lot. I've seen a lot of people be like, well, I rooted my phone.
Good for you.
So it's completely fine for me. And I'm like, well, that's not the point.
Yeah, most people I'm gonna blow your minds. Most people don't root their phones.
We do, but that doesn't mean that
And I don't even
everyone
like doing it.
does.
It's a pain. It's funny because so many people are like, yeah, it's so easy. I can do it in 5 minutes. Yeah, sure. Okay, if you do it all the time, maybe you can do it in 5 minutes. It's kind of like when I say swapping a graphics card's easy. I can do it in 30 seconds. For someone who's never swapped a graphics card before, and maybe they have better things to do than spend this time doing it, they will have to go and read about it and make sure. They will have to research which one to buy. They might not know the best place to get it, so they might spend more, etc., etc., etc. There's a learning curve. There's always a learning curve with anything new. And every time I've rooted a phone, there's been some kind of problem. It's never that simple. When I did my wife's Droid, I've only done 2 phones, but when I did my wife's Droid DNA, there was a radio update that was you couldn't access unless you got the new over the air, unless you rooted your phone before you applied the new over the air, and then you had to do some weird. So you needed it was bizarre. There was very little documentation, and then
Like
when
none,
I did my
almost.
HTC One very recently, because I have a developer edition phone, there was blah 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 blah. There was this and that, and half the tools that are out there. Like one guy had his post removed, or he was banned from XDA or something. But then you can find it elsewhere. But then it didn't even work, and it's not that simple. So that's all there is to it. Unless you do it all the time and you're just kind of going through a routine and you've done this phone already and you've documented it. And
And
you know
if you
what
have a
you're
super popular phone.
doing. Yeah, that helps.
Because it was not easy for your wife's phone, especially when I was first tasked with it, because there was literally no documentation. But then if you go try and do like an S3,
Yeah.
it's actually not that hard. But then that's because there's all the documentation you could ever possibly want for every model.
But then that can be a problem too. Because it can be overwhelming for someone who's new.
Yeah, that's true.
Where they don't know which guide to follow.
Sifting through it, and there's quite a few, and some of them are more frustrating than others, and a lot of people pick sides, which one's better, and then that's confusing because you're trying to take sides on an argument. Like, I know people complain a lot, my moderators included, about all the threads that pop up on the forum all the time, Intel versus AMD, or
Yeah.
NVIDIA versus AMD. And I don't actually hate it that much because I understand that guy. Because he's probably just like, what? I don't get it. What's the answer? I want an easy answer, and then everyone destroys them. But like, I get it. I'm not in that position, but I get it. It makes sense.
All right, so I guess that was pretty much all there was to say about that.
Yeah, there's really not.
It's coming right away, which actually really surprised me. Like, normally you see these kinds of rulings, like, hey, stop doing that. And it's like, you got 6 months or a year to phase it out or whatever it is. But I think it's like February.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
ridiculous like
there's,
that.
There's all pre-installed apps must be detectable, but there's some stuff.
Deletable.
But there's some stuff that they're kind of not worrying about too much, which is Wi-Fi connectivity, near-field communication, customer service, and App Store. Which
I don't understand why Samsung needs an app store.
I was gonna say the App Store doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Or let me remove it.
Everything else kind of does.
And if I really wanted your app store, I would go get it.
Yeah. Nintendo is not being allowed to stop certain types of hackers. This is, I think, I don't know. I think they should open up more. Nintendo, I think, I don't necessarily think they need to open up their platform because they're not going to, so I'm not going to try and push them to do that. But I think they need to open up to like indies and people playing with their platform. Now this, I can understand why they might want to prevent it, although I don't understand region locks. I just understand that it's part of their thing.
Yeah, you know what? Twitter, if you guys can find us a fantastic article about why region locks need to exist on games, I don't actually understand.
The only thing I can possibly think of is they're hoping there will be that one dude who moves and then has to buy a new system and all new games. But then, like, why are you being a jerk to that guy? Just let him keep playing.
Like, the one thing I can think of is maybe ESRB ratings. Like the, mature ratings
Just
or
have more than one
or
rating
whatever
or
else.
something.
And again, that doesn't seem
or let them deal with it.
That doesn't seem that complicated to
yeah.
just have a global game with all the ratings on it. Doesn't seem complicated. Another thing would be packaging guidelines.
Yeah.
So multilingual packaging. I know in Canada,
But then just like don't sell them. Have it so that you can't sell it in different regions.
But then why would you make it not work?
Yeah.
Well, okay, another thing is gray marketing. So when it's different pricing in different regions, having people just buy all their games somewhere on the cheap, and it's like, you know what? What are you gonna do? It happens on Steam. It happens physically. Like,
And every console gets a hack for not being region locked anymore. But anyways, an Italian company named PC Box, which is kind of funny, has a little piece of hardware device that allows you to play games from any region. And Nintendo is not allowed stopping them, although Nintendo, as far as I know, hasn't like done a legal reply yet.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. I suspect it's gonna hold, but we'll see what happens there anyways.
Speaking of Nintendo,
So a little bit of deja vu, like the most accurate version of deja vu I've ever seen. I've been saying for a little while when people have brought this up, like this just recently happened, but then I couldn't really find the article. It took me a really long time. But here's a quote from 2011. Well, okay, first of all, in 2011 they were having the 3DS problems. So now here's a quote. For cuts in fixed salaries, I'm taking a 50% cut. Other representative directors are taking a 30% cut, and other execs are taking a 20% cut. And that's exactly, like, pretty much to the T what he's doing now because of Wii U. So, yeah.
there is still time for them to turn Wii U around. I mean, I mean, for anyone who didn't watch your video, I didn't watch it. Talk about your experience with Wii U.
It's been really awesome, and there's massive rooms for improvement. One thing that a lot of people have to realize is that, like, especially I'm talking to PC community. We're a PC community. I have no interest in any of the other consoles running right now, as in new consoles. So PS4 and Xbox One, I couldn't really care. The only reason why I could possibly care is exclusives, and then I'm not super interested in the exclusives on either of those platforms. What I am super interested in is Nintendo exclusives, because especially first-party Nintendo exclusives are freaking awesome. And they're not moving to any other platform anytime soon, or at all ever, I don't really think personally, but we'll see. And like the state of PC right now is co-op games are kind of few and far between, and most games that you could possibly play together with a friend are not really co-op designed and aren't really like within the same house planned out like a lot of Nintendo games are. So if you have friends over, it's not the easiest, now it happens, but it's not the easiest thing ever for everyone to bring their computer and full rig setup every single time, because honestly that's kind of annoying. It's fun to do every once in a while, but it's kind of annoying. So if you can have something that has a lot of games that are specifically designed for playing with a group of people in a small contained environment, that's kind of awesome, and that's what Wii U is. It's also not a Wii, which is kind of a really big problem. And Nintendo has recently actually like very blatantly said like, yeah, this is a problem. Everyone thinks Wii U is just this tablet accessory.
I can't even, like, that is, we've had this conversation, but that is so baffling to me.
But it's
that
true.
people could think that the Wii U was a handheld.
But it's, well, okay.
Okay,
but
before
people thought it was
I-
an accessory.
Before I rip on them too hard, did anyone watching think that the Wii U was a handheld accessory for the Wii? And actually, can you find that article that walked through the
I'm probably not going to be able to.
the reasons that people thought that the... Okay, well, we remember a couple of them. So in Nintendo's advertising, they often had the controller, it's a controller, with the screen on it, front and the center stage, with like a small black box that actually kind of looks like a black Wii behind it, a large black Wii. And then...
There's a lot of no's, but there is definitely a few yeses.
Really? Okay, there are some yeses. Okay, why? Okay.
There was not. I always knew, but as from the people that I've specifically talked to in person that didn't know, I should put out a straw poll for this. That's what I'm gonna do. For
your straw poll.
For the people that I've talked to that specifically didn't know, what they're saying is, like we just said, all the pictures showed this handheld tablet-y thing, and all the branding was saying now you can play your games on the tablet, and you can do some stuff on the tablet, and yay, Nintendo.
You know,
It wasn't saying...
they could have solved this by calling it the Revolution.
Or
That
like,
was a way better, or Dolphin.
or Wii 2.
All their code names are so much better than their console names lately.
Yeah. Or like anything that made more sense than Wii U.
We made no sense, so I guess it shouldn't have surprised us. Yeah. But I mean, still... Okay, alright, I concede defeat. I guess it was possible if you're not paying attention, like, the way that we do to tech news, to think that the Wii U was more of an accessory. But it still is sort of baffling to me. With how little I care about any given console, I mean, I knew, but then again, I do pay pretty close attention to headlines and whatnot. So I'm gonna grab Slick's link to the straw poll there. Whoa, so fast! Ah!
With better TTV, if you scroll up, it pauses
Yeah, I know.
chat.
I gotta get it.
Sweet.
All right. So anyway, they're cutting salaries, and you know, I respect that. I respect that a lot. Cutting the executive salaries, cutting leadership's salaries when a company makes a bad move. A company is a ship, okay? And when the ship hits something, it's not the fault of the guy that was shoveling coal into the furnace in order to power the, the engine. He couldn't even see where it was going. He didn't know. You don't, tell him that you don't need him to put coal in the furnace anymore, because you still need coal in your furnace if you're going to go anywhere after you ram into something. The responsibility lies with the leadership. And the fact that they're willing to own that, and they're willing to cut their own salaries rather than hurt their employees. So there were no firings. They just cut executive salaries, I think is very respectable. I mean, how happy would you be about working for me if we had a really rough year and I was like, everyone's getting cut except me? Come on.
It's brutal, and the thing is, we saw a snapback. In 2011, we saw a snapback. Company rallied, they dropped some prices, they adjusted some things, they did a few things, and we saw a snapback, and I fully see that again. In what way, I don't know. I already see 3DS making up a lot of money where Wii U isn't. I don't think they necessarily expected 3DS to do as well as it is right now. So I think that can help off-balance the Wii U while they hopefully fix it. There was very recently a patch that massively increased boot time.
Interesting.
So you can boot into a game much faster, and they're thinking of other things. They have a sale right now for like indie style downloadable only games, where if you buy one or if you already own one, you get like 60% off the others or some crazy thing like that.
Wow!
Like they're making pushes. There's a few things that I think they can do. I should have grabbed this. I didn't realize we were going to talk about this topic this much, but there was a thing saying that you can play DS games on your Wii U now, but I don't know, and I think it's like all downloadable store content stuff, but I don't know whether they were specifically talking about DS,
right,
or if it's like 3DS,
right,
like I don't know what game catalog is actually on there, because I didn't read into it enough, and I don't know if it's official or whatnot. Like I didn't think we'd need it for the show, so I didn't go into it. Speaking
of back catalogs, PlayStation 4 getting PS1 and PS2 compatibility is pretty cool. Anyway, carry on.
Anyways, the poll right now is showing about 20% of people in our community, so fairly informed tech people, about 20% of them thought it was just a handheld.
All right, well there you go. I was wrong.
So if you jump out of the really informed tech community, it's going to increase the further and further you get away. So it's actually a pretty significant percentage of people.
It's amazing because, honestly, like I don't see advertising. I gloss over it completely. If I want to know about something, I will go specifically looking for it, and that's the way that I get my information. So I don't often consider how much of an impact a TV ad might have on someone's education level about a particular product. Because to me, nothing. I will not learn anything from your TV ad because I will specifically ignore it. Whereas, I mean, if that's what people were going based on, especially, mums and dads with young kids that they haven't owned a game console in years, if at all, then
different direct things that I pulled while doing research was like an editor for, I don't remember what, I think it might have been The Verge. His wife was opening up the Wii U box from what he had recently purchased and was confused as to why there was a Wii in it.
Right.
Because she thought it was a Wii. She thought she was just getting the tablet thing. She didn't realize there's actually a console that goes with it. There was moms talking about like going to say Best Buy and then being confused when employees were trying to sell them Wii U's because she's saying, I don't have the budget to buy this $300 and something, this was before the price drop, tablet. Why are you trying to be this aggressive? Like, leave me alone. And they're like, but it's not. And they're like, what?
Right.
It is. Because they have no idea. Because all the branding, when you look at it, is a big tablet. And they're like, I don't need my kids to have this Nintendo tablet thing. So
Right.
there's a lot of confusing messaging. And I think Nintendo's taking the right direction a little bit. If you've been watching trending Twitter lately, if you've been watching Reddit lately, all this kind of stuff, they're up there a lot of the time.
Well, I think the fact that beyond the initial hype, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are so uninteresting
They're really
right now.
boring. And Nintendo's the only one really making additional moves right now. But like it makes sense, and I see them trying, and the whole I have halved my salary thing was nothing but good publicity. So I think they might be doing the right things. There's 10 billion people right now that are trying to say these are all the different things that Nintendo has to do to make better. But what I think they have to do is Nintendo just has to try really hard, and I think they'll be fine. Because they're not a bad company.
And they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. They're combining their handheld and console divisions. They're building that new building so that they can do it more effectively. They're doing all this stuff. They're working on it. Just let them work on it. They'll probably be fine.
Speaking of working on things, this was a mistake that I made last week. I had said that the HTC One used a TN panel. I was completely wrong. It is IPS. It's actually in their own FAQ about the One, which you can find on HTC's website. However, so it uses Super LCD 3, which is IPS. However, I do still remember finding information somewhere, and I don't know what the credibility of the source was, so maybe that was the problem, saying that Super LCD 2 was TN. I could be wrong about that, once again, but my point still stands. What I said last week about not all TN panels being absolutely terrible is true. Some are better than others, some are really hard to look at, and some are what I would call, okay, not bad, acceptable. So there, my apologies for that. This is awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it's the biggest deal. I think the prescription part matters a lot more than the other part. So Google is putting glass on different frames, and they are now supporting prescriptions.
That is the hipsterest looking person that I've seen today.
There's more of them if
Yeah.
you go through the glass video thing. You just automatically look like a hipster if you have glass, though.
Not like a hipster necessarily. Like a glass hole, perhaps. I actually haven't used mine in a couple weeks.
I haven't really seen you use it since like the second day you had it.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. It's amazing how many people were wearing them at CES. I was kind of like laughing to myself.
What are you doing? It's I don't think personally in the like 2 seconds that I had to use it because you gave it to me to use and then I didn't even want it anymore. I you know how we're always like we're waiting for revision 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for like revision 4.
Yeah.
I don't want this like little glass cube thing. It's kind of terrible.
Well,
I want it to be the whole lens.
The problem for me is that it's not adjustable enough. I can't get the screen in a place where I can comfortably look at it. It's like way up here. And the problem is that my ears are not high enough up on my head
This
to bring
could
it
help
down.
you then.
So this could potentially help because they have different frame options now as well as the ability to prescription lenses. I think it can only handle from -4 to +4, so no extreme prescriptions, but it should handle the majority of people who just need a mild prescription and want to use Google Glass. So you still have to pay the $1,500 entry fee just to be part of the Google Glass Explorer program. That hasn't gone away. And you get to pay another $225 for the different frames. And then you get to pay, they have new tinted shades, up to $150 for those. So there's 40
Tinted.
combinations of colors, frames, and shades now.
Actually pretty crazy.
Speaking of things that are expensive, this battle in Eve.
So Yeah, this happens like every kind of once in a while, but this one was a little bit absurd. Usually it'll be like the biggest battle in Eve ever. It was a little bit bigger than the last one. This one's like the biggest battle in Eve ever. It was insane. This one doesn't make any sense. Everything went nuts. So many people lost so much stuff. The kind of like not surprising this always happens thing kind of happened where someone forgot to pay their bill on a building. So that building holds sovereignty in the area. If you have that, certain structures and whatnot are protected, like stations.
You should explain what station. Not everyone
So,
plays
like,
Eve.
if you have a space station,
Yeah.
it is protected.
Like in that system?
In that system, yeah.
Okay.
So within that system, if you have a space station and you have sovereignty there, which is based on having another building which has maintenance costs and whatnot. I'm trying to not go way over crazy.
So it's like the creep.
Yeah,
Other people can't build on your crap while you have your creep building.
kinda, but they can build the things that take that over. But then they have to defend them and they have to go online.
Sure,
And like
okay.
it's a yeah. But essentially, if that goes down, it becomes much easier to kind of shut someone's system down and take it over. Essentially, system as in like area in space.
Solar system.
There we go. So yeah, there's some people complaining because apparently the holdings corporation that was paying for that building had enough money, and the checkbox was checked for it to auto withdrawal, so it should have never had problems with payments because it had more than enough money, like tons of money, and the thing was checked and it still went down. So they're pretty not stoked about that, and they're claiming bug and blah 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 blah. So we're gonna see what happens with that eventually, but who knows? I don't know. I don't think anything's gonna come from that, to be completely honest.
And none of that will affect the fact that this cost $500,000 of real world money. They're
Estimated.
estimating.
Yeah, I've seen estimates anywhere from 200,000 to 500,000, so quite a range. We'll see what it ends up at, but I'm kind of there's been more of the estimates at the $500,000 range. I haven't seen any like list of lost ships or anything like that. I know there's been over 100 Titans lost. If you haven't played Eve, Titans are like when you first start playing and you're like, oh, there's lots of ships. What are the biggest, coolest ships? The Titans are like massively, ridiculously bigger and more badass than all the other ones. And then everyone gets all excited and then realizes they can't fly them for like a year and a half or something. At the very least, I don't remember exactly what it is. But those are Titans. They're worth about $3,000 each. And there's been over 100 of them lost. One of the guys from one of the corporations was talking about how in a previous war, it was such a huge deal and they had lost and whatever, and they lost 7 Titans. And it was like a super big deal that they lost 7 Titans. And this time they killed 40 within a small window time frame. And we're like, yeah, there's still 12 hours until server downtime. And there's server downtime like every day. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill a whole bunch more. This is ridiculous. Like this is insane. Like every single time there's a giant big record in Eve, it's insane, but this is even more insane than it was before. Part of my problem with knowledge on this is I haven't played Eve in quite a while now. Apparently it's 9 months straight of training to fly it, and then you have to have stuff for like fittings and actually being able to fly it well and stuff like that. And Titans are interesting because people call them essentially coffins, because once you get in, like you can't dock in anything because ships can dock in you. So once you start flying a Titan, you essentially fly that Titan until you die in the game, essentially. So it's interesting. Over 100 Titan pilots were finally freed from their coffins.
Freed from their coffins. That's one way of looking at it.
I don't know. That was kind of insane. I'm excited to read more about it because a lot of the news I found on this is from 2 days ago, and a lot of it is estimations. So I'm excited to see the like, this is what happened. This is exactly what happened. This checkbox was unchecked, or this bill came out and they didn't expect, so it brought them below this amount of money, or CCP screwed up, or whatever, there was a mole or something like that. I'm excited for all that information, and I'm excited for the final dollar amount, because that should legitimately be pretty interesting. What was also really interesting, I'm buying time for you to finish that, but what was also really interesting was reading the dialogues between all the players, because like I said, 4,000 players, and this was like, there was corporations from Russia, there was people from the States, there was all over the world, so there's people that took time off work, like quite a few people that like officially took time off work, like vacation days, so they could go home and play Eve, because the player base in Eve is actually a little bit older than quite a few games, because some people call it a spreadsheet simulator. So people were taking time off work and coming home. People were like, I think some dude skipped a flight. People were like stuck in airports playing on their laptops, which was super laggy. Like the things people did to be able to defend their homeland or to attack this area was insane, and it's really interesting. So if you have the time, like Google it, look it up, because even just reading some of the the Twitter interaction and reading through some of the forums is ridiculous, because this fight was just nuts.
So,
Did I buy enough time? Did you
yeah,
do it?
I think I'm good now.
Yes.
Wait. Oh, hold on. No. Nope. Need another minute.
All right. My favorite thing to do in Eve, because I'm talking about nothing at this point in time.
Don't you have any other topics?
No.
I think there is something.
There's
Oh yeah,
artificial cheese.
Artificial cheese is stupid. I was at Subway today, and they were like, "Yeah, we're out of cheddar cheese. So do you want this?" I'm like, "Is that processed cheese?" And the girl's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What? Is it cheese or is it plastic?" Because they're not the same thing. Cheese is a dairy product. Processed cheese is garbage. And if I'm going to be paying for a sandwich that has actual cheese that costs a lot more than processed cheese included in the price, no, you may not swap out artificial cheese for real cheese. Why do we even call it cheese? They're not allowed to call whipped topping whipped cream. Why are we allowed to call processed cheese cheese? It's disgusting. Anyway, that was just a rant that I'm so mad. So she's like, "Well, we have shredded cheese." I'm like, "I'm melting it anyway. Yeah, put that on. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for finding a solution to this problem that was obviously going to upset me a whole lot."
I've actually been wondering for a little while why people haven't been pushing, like, I don't really care that much, to be completely honest, but why other people haven't thought of this and been pushing for forcing different names on heavily GMO'd products.
Yes.
Because if it is something different, because you have changed like DNA strains and you have genetically modified it, then is it still a banana? Or is it something else and the organic one is banana?
Banana Plus?
Banana U? Is it still a banana?
Oh, I'll banana you, all right.
Ooh.
Okay, so I think I am ready now. I have been receiving many messages, and trust me, I always intended to do something, but I wanted to keep it kind of quiet because, like, I don't know how I'm gonna. Actually, I don't know how I'm gonna keep this quiet enough for. Okay, well, whatever. Screw it.
He's gonna figure it out.
Yeah, he'll figure it out at some
like
point.
immediately.
Like immediately. Okay, guys, keep your traps shut. Can I trust you to do that?
Please don't. We're trying to do a good thing.
Yeah, we're trying to do a nice thing here, and you guys are gonna muck it up if you do things. All right, so basically, I don't know if you guys know this, but on linustechtips.com, there's actually a store now, and if you are not a forum contributor, the store looks empty other than contributor badges, so that's monthly subscription fees. Those help us do all the things that we do, just so you know. It's not just for the forum. If you guys appreciate the work we do and you want to contribute to what we're doing, we would very much appreciate if you'd pick up a subscription. But if you are not a contributor, it looks kind of empty. If you are a contributor, there are some things in there, and I will be adding a lot more. Some of them are samples, some of them are things I've bought and don't need anymore, but it's basically discounted tech stuff, and the discounts get better for higher contribution levels. So be ready for that, guys, because I'm going to be hitting it with a flood of stuff sometime in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, something that is accessible to everyone is this item that I just created. I only have one of them, so only the first person will be able to buy it. This is an MSI GTX 780 Lightning Edition for $500 plus shipping, and whatever applicable taxes are going to get billed to you when it arrives. I'll ship it anywhere in the world, but it should be noted that the chances of it arriving in one piece are a lot better if you're within North America, because shipping internationally is sort of horrible. So $500, and the proceeds go to Austin Evans to help him with something that is undisclosed at this time. Well, I mean, his house burned down, so obviously we know that something bad happened, and, you know, something has to be done. But exactly what the proceeds will go towards will be disclosed later. But that $500 is definitely for him. So this comes out of our... Someone's like, will you take Bitcoin? No. So convert Bitcoin to cash and buy it. This is something I don't understand. Why do you need retailers to accept Bitcoin? Because they all do the same thing. They take Bitcoin at a horrible exchange rate.
Like a terrible one.
Just convert it
and
save
money.
Buy things. Okay, anyway, sorry, I'm going to be ranting again. So, Austin's house burned down. Wasn't his fault. It was someone on a different floor whose heater lit on fire. It burned to the ground. He lost almost everything. All he has is a safe with some personal belongings that he didn't say what it was. He's got his MacBook, he has his phone, and that's just about it. I don't know what his insurance situation was, so at any rate, guys, I posted the link, and someone's like, give Austin a job. Austin doesn't need a job from me. He'll be back on his feet in no time. Yeah. He's a good kid. He's a good guy.
What did you price it at?
I put it for $500. So that's about $100 under retail. So proceeds to Austin. Apparently it's gone already. So if whoever tried to buy it doesn't actually end up sending the money or whatever else, I really hope I set it to only one in stock, because I only have one. Only the first person will get it. Guys, only the first person will get it. Oh, I said number in stock. Oh, no, okay, that's probably because it's sold already. 2 sold. Sorry, guys, only the first one's going to get it. Anyway, so the other thing to bear in mind, guys, is that there are other things in the store, and there will be more added. These ones will go to the Linus Media Group coffers, but this one's for you, Austin.
Yay.
Yay. And I think that's pretty much it for the show today.
I think we're probably good. I'm really feeling like there's something else, but I can't remember it at this point in time. Someone just messaged me, Wii U will have both DS games, but they're marketing them as just DS games, obviously, because of the missing 3D. So I asked, trying to specify, does that mean I can play Pokemon X and Y on my Wii U?
They've got to lose the whole confusingness with their naming scheme thing, because you know what's really funny is I was mocking people a little bit for not knowing that the Wii U was a different console. I didn't know the 3DS was a different console.
Then a what?
Than a DS. I thought it was just a 3D screen version of a DS, and so you could see things in 3D when available.
And then 2DS is like not a DS, which was in 2D. It's a 3DS, but in 2D.
Yeah, like that's
what?
Ridiculous.
But I have this DS Lite, which already does 2D.
Yeah,
why would I need a 2DS?
A DS Lite was just a DS, and a DS XL was a DS Lite but big. Like they got to figure that out. I mean, maybe Japanese people have better memories than us poor slobs over here, and they can figure all this stuff out and memorize it, but I can't. So there you go. I am just as guilty as any of you.
Oh, there's this thing at the bottom of the dock.
What's that? Oh, that's hilarious.
It's so old.
I know it's old, but I had never seen it before, and it's hilarious. Okay, so this is an ancient article on Computer World. This is back in 2011, March 2011, so almost 3 years ago, where ASUS is trying to cut down on shipping waste in Taiwan and comes up with the idea of shipping their motherboards in a box that also doubles as a case. So it holds the motherboard snug for shipping and is constructed so additional components required to make a PC can be added, said Debbie Lee, a spokeswoman for the Taipei-based company. The product is on display at this week's CeBIT, etc., 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 and here's a video of it. That is the stupidest thing that I have ever seen in my life. Speaking of houses burning down, do you take a piece of electronics that is probably going to be fine, but may burn up, and put it in a cardboard enclosure? No, you do not. Their whole thing was, okay, there are punch-out holes for ventilation and a rear panel that houses the connectors. Some people, said Lee, spend a long time looking for a case, so this box is all they need until they find something. Come on. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week, and apparently Luke has something.
I think the Newegg show is called the NAW show.
The NAD show? Shut up.
NAW.
Oh, Nah show. Really?
Newegg just named their new Friday show the Nah show.
The Nah
NAW.
show? It's like, are you gonna bother to tune into Linus after you watch? Nah. How much you want to bet they had that
Jerks.
conversation off camera? Those guys are such trolls. I love those guys.
I love how it's not. Oh man,
We should move our show to Friday
they
morning.
just flipped it.
We should totally do it.
When exactly is their show?
It's like right before us. I think the idea is people tune out and then tune right into to WAN show.
So I should just do really extended pre-streams every week.
Yes. Really entertaining
I can
pre-streams.
pre-stream. I can pre-stream preparing the doc so people can get like a little bit of a preview, and I can do live discussions with people about the doc, and then we can do the full show.
Yeah, yes. That would be a way to stick it to them.
We need to figure out their exact start time.
Yeah, we need to. I wouldn't know because I never watched their show. Take that, Paul and Kyle and Vu, Joanne, all you guys,
Oh.
and all the other people whose names I forget. There was one that I forgot his name like 6 times at CES.
Isn't that the worst? That's why.
Steve.
That is the only possible reason why I would like facial recognition on glass. But
I
then
know.
There's so many reasons why it's bad that
But it would
I'm.
be awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. Just be like, Luke. Because I've forgotten your name before. I'm just bad with names. It's just
So
a
am
fact.
I don't know. And like people will forget my name and get super embarrassed about it. I'm like, dude, I don't care.
Yeah,
I
because
do
I
the
don't know yours.
same thing.
You know what? Like, I
Yeah.
ran into Yoinkerman from the forum.
Yeah.
I think a couple times at PAX, and every time, it was like I had no idea who he was again, and it's nothing personal. And like I felt terrible because
At
he's
events,
like
though.
he's one of our biggest contributors,
He always
and
tweets.
he's a really positive influence on the forum. I've talked to him plenty through Twitter. The way I usually recognize people is by their Twitter avatars or their forum avatars.
Forum avatars.
When people change their forum avatars, I have no idea who they are anymore. And I mean, before MSN and Steam, this used to drive me crazy, was Steam's history of people's usernames only went back as far as your local install. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was ridiculous. And now that they have nicknames, it's not as much of a problem. But back before you could set nicknames for people, my Steam's friends list, I have no idea who any of the people are. Like, I'm half tempted to just do a complete purge and then start re-adding select people that make sense. Because I just, like, and like, I was doing a purge and I was, like, messaging people. I was like, who are you? And they'd be like, you know, blah, 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 like, Monkeyhood. I'm like, oh, Monkey. Okay, it's you. Okay, fine. But, like, they changed their name, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. Okay, our show is sort of done now. We're just kind of, like, talking about nothing.
That isn't that.
Jeez.
Isn't that basically the whole show?
I don't know.
What do you think? Do you think that products should be renamed like GMO, like a GMO banana?
I mean, what have they changed? Have they made it bigger? Can they just call it Jumbo Banana? But then is that going to end up trademarked by the company that made it? And then are we going to end up with Jumbo bananas
Like
and Giant
different
Bananas
brands
and
of
Uber
bananas?
Bananas and, like...
Maybe it'll be like Kleenex and
It's going to be an interesting 50 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think someone's gonna pick that up at some point and run. Because someone's gonna be like, it's not technically a banana anymore, or whatever it is. And like maybe there will be a threshold. Like once you get far enough away from the original definition of banana, it becomes something
Like,
else.
when does it become something else? Is a size change enough?
Like that's
is
what
a
I mean.
color change
like,
enough?
I don't know.
Because if, like, a banana was, you know, bigger and a different color, and therefore much more impressive, maybe you would have to call it something else.
Or maybe it's strictly like it might look exactly the same, but maybe it's based on technical changes. So like if nutrition values change by certain thresholds, but then how
do
hell
you
define
quantify the
that?
nutrition value of
And-
a grape? Like, unless you
I
test
don't
from
know.
every batch.
Someone must know.
And then you have to do, like, a custom label for every batch? I mean, how do they handle that?
I don't know. But this is I think that's going to become an interesting thing at some point in time. I have no idea how it's going to work. I don't know who's going to do
Can
it.
you imagine a banana big enough to make a multi-person sized banana split, like, by carving out the middle of the banana and putting in ice cream? I mean, okay, there are problems with GMO. But let's
But you want this like
But let's think about the positive things here for a moment.
So it's like build a raft out of bananas.
Like, what if you could carve Halloween pumpkins that were apples?
The pit of that thing, it's like big enough to beat someone with. It's like
I'll beat you
with
with
the
my
pit and the
banana.
stem, you could just be like, it's like a flail.
Or like blueberries that were big enough to have like blueberry fights with.
That would
Okay.
be epic.
I think we're done here. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
Instead of Candyland,
And
it's
you
like
know what?
GMO land.
I'm super disappointed, but you know what happened is our YouTube upload. In fact, I think I saved this. This is awesome. Okay, well, hold on. Give me a sec here, guys, because it's probably gonna break. Hold
What
on.
does that even mean?
I don't know what this is.
What is that?
Add. Hold on. Screen region. So this is a new one. This is one I haven't seen before. But when I tried to upload our announcement for the WAN party, your settings could not be saved. Invalid request authentication expired, which is ridiculous because I had just set upload. And in order to change it, I just went to a different tab. I'm clearly still signed in. So our notification that the stream was live didn't go up until like an hour into the show. And I'm really sorry about that. But anyway, the
Again,
archive
last week
will be
that
up
was wrong
shortly.
too.
Okay, peace, guys.
Bye.